Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of BSing Sports here on the BSing Network, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. Usually, with me on my Eagles recap shows would be Kyle. Unfortunately, he at the last moment became unavailable. So it will be a very quick recap show with just me. Hopefully, that's good enough for you guys out there. But yeah, I mean, let's just get right into it because you know how freaking excited I am to announce that the Eagles got smacked again. The Cowboys came out, had a really good game plan, and literally just beat the shit out of the Eagles. Nothing else can be said about it except for exactly that. The Cowboys came out, they executed. 33-13 victory, Cowboys over the Eagles. Eagles do not score an offensive touchdown in this game. And for a team that I believe was fourth or fifth in offense going into that game, that is a bit embarrassing. Yeah, Tim Hawkins, thanks for joining in. Tim Hawkins says it's quite embarrassing. Exactly. Listen, now there were obviously things that went wrong that you can't have go wrong. For starters, you can't have three turnovers on the plus 30 yard of the Cowboys yard line of the Cowboys. That's absolutely horrendous. Not to mention it was your three best players in Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and AJ Brown. You just can't have three turnovers there. The Cowboys get points off of every turnover, and you take 21 points off of your score, presumably 21 points. And what's the score? Oh, 33-13. What was 21 more points for you? 34-33. You lose so much when you turn the football over, but three times in a game and you're definitely going to get beat. You're lucky it wasn't worse. Honestly, I feel like Dallas kind of pulled up on you there at the end. I didn't even watch most of the fourth quarter because I was just so tired of looking at what the product was. But I feel like Dallas pulled up on you there at the end, and they didn't need to keep the foot to the floor. They beat the shit out of you the entire game. Only touchdown you get is on a fumble recovery, scoop and score by Jalen Carter. So good for Jalen Carter getting his first career touchdown. Yeah, let's get into this real quick. Ken Brandt says that Hurts doesn't look like Hurts right now. I 100% am with you. He's being slightly indecisive. Yeah, he goes 18 for 27, 197 yards, obviously zero total touchdowns. I think that's the first time in a very, 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 very long time Jalen Hurts had zero total touchdowns. Braden Mann goes 1-for-1, the punter, for 28 yards to Olamide Zaccheaus. Here's one of the problems that I have with the Eagles right now. I'll get into the defense in a few minutes. Like I said, this is going to be a quick show. It's not going to be very long. I'll get into the defense in a few minutes. Here's the biggest problem I have with the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Jalen Hurts is targeting three people. He's targeting AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. And Dallas Goedert not nearly enough, if we're just going to be 100% honest and just talk about what's going on here. The Eagles offense is super generic right now. The play calling is absolutely horrendous. I don't know where they got this playbook from. It must be Madden 99 with the routes that these Eagles are running. Tim Hawkins says it right here. Offense is so out of sync right now. They most certainly are out of sync. It's not good to see. Nick Sirianni was asked in an interview today if he was considering taking play calling back from offensive coordinator Brian Johnson. He had one very simple, quick answer: no. When asked to elaborate on it, he said, we're 10-3. Yeah, we got beat up the last 2 weeks. He goes, but the Niners lost 3 games earlier in the year. Nobody asked them if they were switching coordinators. And listen, he's got a point. They're still 10-3. They're still first in the division, second in the conference. And they got 3 really what should be. I mean, the Giants are looking like a different team now, but they have 3 really easy games to round out the season. When you're looking at it from a schedule standpoint, obviously you've got the Seahawks this week on Monday night. That game has been flexed to Monday night, and that's going to be a tough game. It's in Seattle. The Eagles don't ever play well in Seattle, so I honestly predict this to be an extremely tough game. Drew Lock looked relatively competent for most of the game against the 49ers, so even if Geno Smith can't go, Drew Lock is going to be a problem for our defense, especially a defense that appears the last 2 weeks not to be able to know how to tackle. A guy like DK Metcalf is going to run all over them. The Niners the Seahawks just basically have to mimic what the 49ers did with Deebo Samuel with DK Metcalf, and it's going to be a problem. I'm telling you, it's going to be a problem. One of the other things I have a problem with, sort of trying to stick with the offense. I know I'm bouncing around a lot here. I got a lot going on in my brain. I've been working since 5:30 this morning. I'm a little tired. You guys can see I'm a little bit manic, and I'm pissed off that the Eagles are playing like shit right now. And I mean, if you're an Eagles fan, how could you not be pissed off with the way the Eagles are playing right now? They're not running the football. you talking Devontae or DeAndre Swift had 11 attempts for 39 yards. That's just over 3.5 yards per carry. Jalen Hurts had 5 attempts for 30 yards, and I think all but 2 of those were designed runs. So I think only 2 of them he got out of the pocket and ran on passing plays, which isn't something that we're used to seeing either. You can't drop Jalen Hurts back and to pass 80% of your plays and expect to be successful, especially when you're running these generic ass routes with your receivers. You're giving the receivers no help. You're running double posts. Of course, they're going to play 2 safeties back, especially if you're not running the football. The offensive game planning has not helped the offense at all. I will agree with that. However, they are not executing at all either. Let's see. I'm going to get back into the comments here. Tim Hawkins says offense is so out of sync. Hawkins says routes are taking forever to develop. Yeah, again, basic ass generic routes, nothing underneath, no check downs, nothing available to get at Jalen to get rid of the football if his first and second read isn't there. They're not doing anything to help Jalen. The coaches, that is, the players. I mean, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are coming out getting 10-plus reception or 10-plus targets a game. I guess they're kind of doing their jobs. But yeah, you can't tell me that with the talent on this team, you guys couldn't design and come up with better play calling. It's kind of at the point, and even listen, go all the way back to the Chiefs game. You got lucky to walk away out of there with a win. We had talked about it the week after that they beat the Chiefs. You know, you're really lucky to come out of there with a win because you look like crap. You find a way in the second half to put up almost 40 points and beat the Bills, but you didn't look real good against the Bills in the first half. But you made adjustments. You know, I can get behind these kinds of games if you make adjustments. You didn't make adjustments against the 49ers, in addition to your defense not knowing how to tackle for whatever reason that game. And the adjustments that you made on defense against the Cowboys this week slowed them down, which is good. But then you turn the ball over 3 times and you give them the ball with an opportunity to go down the field and build on their lead. They're not executing. They're not playing well. And they are not the best team in football, whereas 2 weeks ago, you would have had a really hard time arguing me out of that. And I'm openly saying right now there's definitely 2 teams in the NFC better than the Eagles, and they just lost to both of them. Let's see. Tim Monty says, I don't know how you can talk about the offense after seeing that horrific defense 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to get into the defense, but you don't help the defense out when they're already on the field for a record amount of plays 2 weeks in a row, and then you turn the ball over 3 times when you're driving to score. Like, you don't put up points on the offensive side of the football, the defense is going to eventually get burned. End of story. The defense is tired. They've been on the field too much. They look like they're scared to tackle at this point. Something's got to give. Fortunately, you have the extra day of rest because you got the Monday night game against Seattle, and you're really hoping here that that you get, I guess, a little bit more healthy. But you don't look like you want to tackle. Now, I will give them a little bit of credit. You hold CeeDee Lamb to only 6 receptions and 71 yards. He still catches a touchdown. But for example, I told you the 3 receivers that Jalen Hurts is only able to target for an entire game. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different Cowboys with targets and 6 of them with receptions. No wonder Dak Prescott's having a great year. He's spreading the football around. Jalen Hurts apparently only plays with 2 other guys. Don't know where the recipe to win is there. There isn't one. Hawkins is complaining about the run defense. I just said it. They've played an absolute astronomical amount of snaps the last 3 weeks. And it started against the Bills, and then it rolled over into the Niners, and the Niners continue to pour it on. And then it rolled into the Cowboys, and the Cowboys continue to pour it on. Dude, they're tired. Jalen Carter started the season really good. How many games in college does Jalen Carter usually play? Pretty sure it's around the 12 or 13 mark. Where are we at now? Dude's tired. Jordan Davis is only in his 2nd season. He's also a really big boy, probably tired. Last year, if you remember, after the Colts game, they signed Linval Davis and Ndamukong Suh to shore up the run game. They didn't do that this year, right? But the run game was struggling at that point. Then they brought in some fresh legs, and they looked good again. They haven't had the opportunity to do that. Nolan Smith, finally, since they got rid of Derek Barnett, Nolan Smith is getting some reps, and he, in his minimum amount of reps, has not looked bad per se. He just looks like a rookie who didn't get to play the first half of the season. I mean, he's a first round draft pick. They've got draft capital built into him. He's gonna get his reps, especially now that Derek Barnett's gone. I think they were trying to get somebody to bite on a trade for Derek Barnett, and obviously the league didn't want him. I don't know. I'll actually check real quick. I don't know where Derek Barnett even went, if he went anywhere. Let's check it real quick. In the meantime, look, I know I said last week, do not panic. He's on the Houston Texans. I said last week, very, very loud, very do not panic, Eagles fans. This isn't the end of the world. We said that if they went into this gauntlet of a stretch that they had, again, you got the Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks. We said if we come out of there 4-2, we'll be sitting really pretty. Now, obviously, we couldn't have predicted that the Cowboys would go on a run like they did and the Niners stayed as hot as they did. But if you sneak out a win in Seattle on Monday night, you walk out of that gauntlet at 4-2, you feel a little bit different about it. But I don't feel good. I don't feel good for the Monday night game in Seattle. I really don't. Let's see. Tim Hawkins says defense has been horrible all year. That back seven is horrifying. It's an interesting thing. I think the scariest part is that we spent all this money to keep Darius Slay and James Bradbury here in the offseason, and they've looked like they've lost significant steps off of their game. Now I realize that they don't have for a majority of the season, they didn't have the A+ help out of, our slot corner and Avonte Maddox. So they were doing things to try and get somebody to stop the slot receivers. That's something that CeeDee Lamb does really well. He runs routes really well out of the slot, and he can burn you there. So nice long 12, 13-minute rant there from Bill. Let's get some questions. I know there's a few of you here in the chat. Why don't you give me some questions? I'll fire off with some answers here. Yeah, so Tim Hawkins here says he's not worried that we lost to the Cowboys and the 49ers, and he's 100% right. It's how we looked dead against the Cowboys and 49ers, how they had no life, how they had no gusto, they showed you absolutely nothing in both of those games about how if these teams meet up in the playoffs, you stand a chance to win. And that's what I think is the most concerning thing for me as an Eagles fan is, okay, fine. You even come out of this with a win in Seattle, and then you win the last 3 games against the Giants and the Cardinals, respectively. That still doesn't make me feel good about playing these two teams again, because I got news for you. You're playing at least one of them. You're definitely playing at least one of them. Ken Brandt asks, are they still rotating the D-line? Yes, they just don't have the depth that they had last year or even at the beginning of the season. Who's Milton Williams isn't 100% healthy. Fletcher Cox is still dealing with a bit of a groin issue, but he's playing through it. They just don't have the depth that they had a year ago. And it looks like, you're talking 14 games in, they're looking like they don't have the depth on the defensive line that they had last year. And again, record amount of snaps the last 3 weeks for the Philadelphia Eagles defense. And once again, I'll go right back to it. Eagles offense did nothing to help them in the Cowboys game. Nothing. Tim Hawkins points out that Seattle put up 30 on Dallas. They also, I think, just put up 24 on the Niners, whereas the Eagles couldn't do either of those two things. So it's a war of attrition, and the Eagles have had no help. You don't make excuses. However, I think we can all agree, Eagles fans, even fans who aren't Eagles fans, can look at the Eagles schedule and realize, okay, NFL did the Eagles no favors, but you're a first-place team in the conference. You get a first-place schedule. You got to play like it. End of story. You went to the Super Bowl last year. You should have known you were going to get hard teams to play. You should have found a way to do it. Maybe Howie stops pumping the brakes and bringing a veteran here for the defensive line, and Ndamukong Suh was linked to the Eagles last week, and now all of a sudden I haven't heard nothing about it. Stop pumping your brakes. Get something done. Obviously, your team needs help somewhere. Julio Jones appears to be a complete bust of a signing. Absolutely has done nothing except for the one catch for a touchdown against the Commanders. And you're making the wrong decisions right now. Listen, we were all really excited. Kevin Byard came in, oh man, we have that really good veteran all-pro safety presence now in the back with Reed Blankenship, who's a really sure tackler. Kevin Byard has not impressed me at all. He's got the one interception against Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen in the end zone. That's the only play he's had so far that has impressed me. So right now listen, I realize how good Howie Roseman has been in the offseason the last few years, and obviously with negotiating contracts, but this particular season, I think he's made a couple of mistakes. And it starts with that secondary. Even before the Kevin Byard situation, You had a chance to either keep Bradbury or Slay and go get somebody else. You chose to keep them both. It's at the time it seemed like a good idea. Now it's not looking so hot. You know, you start to question things when you're getting beat like this. But again, as negative as this pod has been tonight, you really got to look back at it and think to yourself, like, they're still 10-3. They just, it's unfortunate they're losing games late in the season when they need to be winning games. Um, Ken Brandt says he saw an interview where Cox said he's out there a lot and he's tired, because it's true. Tim Hawkins, same thing I just said. You know, we do have 10 wins. We're still a 10-win team right now. There's only two other teams in the league with 10 wins, Cowboys and the Niners. Oh, that's not true. The Dolphins. Wait, did the Dolphins lose last night? Guys, I've been running two jobs and also taking care of the pod. Somebody tell me if the Dolphins won last night. I'm so tired, so tired. And then Tim Hawkins says we need a good draft class this year. I would say if the Eagles are drafting anything, let's keep in mind, I don't know. I think Devontae Smith's only got one more year on his rookie deal. So he's going to be a priority in my opinion, because A.J. Brown is getting older. Devontae Smith is still the young, good receiver. Dolphins lost last night. Thank you, Tim Hawkins and Ken Brandt. Appreciate you. And so in my opinion, I think signing Devontae Smith should be a priority for the Philadelphia Eagles. I also think that you need to find a way to extend Dallas Goedert. I know he was injured and he only caught 4 passes the other night, but he caught 4 of 4 targets. You can't say the same for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They both had a couple of drops. Devontae Smith had a pretty big one there in the second quarter. A.J. Brown had a huge one in the third quarter on the sideline. See, this is the other thing. It's like I'm mad and frustrated with the way Jalen Hurts hasn't really looked like Jalen Hurts. These guys aren't helping him. It's stuff it's like compounding problems, right? So that not only are the receivers dropping footballs, right? You know, they're supposed to be like one of the best wide receiver tandems in football. 7 drops between the two of them the other day, or between the last 2 games. And then you compound that problem. Okay, well, we're dropping the ball. Jalen Hurts is putting good balls on us and we're dropping them. Now we're catching them, trying to fight for extra yardage, and we're putting the ball on the ground. Jalen, you did that too. Can't even just point fingers because you did it too. It's compounding problems, which is what's causing more and more issues for the Philadelphia Eagles right now, and it's getting hard to watch. You know, you're a fan of the game, you're a fan of the team, and you like want to sit down with your buddy and your wife. In my case, because I had Ryan and Allie with me, and enjoy the game, and then you're just sitting there screaming at the TV the entire time because of stupid decision, stupid execution, play after play after play. And again, I'm going to give the defense a small pass. They're freaking tired. Can you imagine coming out 3 weeks in a row and averaging somewhere around 90 snaps a game? That's ridiculous. Your offense is doing nothing to get you off the field, or to keep you off the field, rather. You need to get off the field, but they need to keep you off the field for some time to get your legs back under you, defensive linemen. I mean, down in the trenches, it's a war in the trenches. And even in the secondary, right, as corners, you don't know what routes the wide receivers are running. It's more difficult for you because you got to make more adjustments. Defense, you need to get off the field on third down. It's a big deal. We'll openly acknowledge that's the case. However, when the offense makes you play 90-plus snaps three weeks in a row, at some point, something's got to give, right? War of attrition. And right now, the Eagles are losing it. My wife just walked out the front door. Yep, there it is. But yeah, so Ken Brandt asks a while back, I just kind of keep going on different rant after different rant on different rant. I mean, whatever, this podcast can turn into that if that's what I need it to be. I'll just keep on going on rants. I haven't gotten any information on the Blankenship. Sirianni didn't say anything about it today. He said they're still trying to assess the situation, but the last I heard was that he might play on Sunday or Monday, because again, they've got the extra day. Now that obviously could change as the week goes on. I don't know for sure if Blankenship's playing on Monday. I want to know, they've like stopped asking questions because they know nobody wants to ask, but I want to know why reporters aren't asking if Jalen Hurts is healthy. That don't look like Jalen Hurts of 2022. It just doesn't. And you can say, oh, we've made a conscientious effort for him to try and protect himself a little bit more. Well, I got news for you. You just lost 2 games. You just lost 2 games in a row against teams you need to beat in the playoffs. He better turn back into that guy he was last year. You better figure it out. He can't do that. Can't be that guy. The one that we're getting right now, he can't be that guy. And again, I digress. I go back and say that, Brown and Smith, they had some drops, and that's a problem. However, when you only target 3 people, the Julio Jones signing to me, stupid. They're not utilizing Alameda Zaccheaus. I don't like Hez Watkins, but if the reason he's on the field, Nick Sirianni, is because he's supposed to open up the defense by running go routes, make him run a go route every damn play. I better never see the football go to him unless he's wide open. But you can't spread the football around. You appear to not want to run the football. You're talking 19 total runs. Why are we losing? Your coaches are stupid. And maybe they're not stupid in the long run, but I tell you what, they're not coaching smart right now. They're not coaching smart. Tim Hawkins is beating a dead stick here, saying, a super vanilla offense, like I said earlier in the show, looks like Madden 99 out there for the Eagles offense. No hot routes when a team blitzes makes no sense. I agree. Again, I don't know why they're not utilizing DeAndre Swift more in the pass game. He obviously can catch the football. He can create space. There's just like the vibe we had last year going into the playoffs was, okay, Jalen's coming off of the shoulder injury. He looked pretty decent in that Dallas game before, Giants game before Giants almost came back and won it. But we saw what he did all year, and we're feeling good about the playoffs. I don't feel good right now. I mean, they're a playoff team because of how bad the rest of the conference is. But I don't. Do the Eagles win a game? Maybe against either the Falcons or the Bucks, whichever team they end up playing. But outside of that, do the Eagles win a playoff game? I don't think so. If I had to give you an answer tonight, I'm saying no. Now, obviously, maybe they don't run into Dallas, or maybe they don't run into the 49ers in that second game, and they can pull a second playoff victory off. But you're going to run into one of these teams in the playoffs, and they both just dummied you. They made you look bad, like real bad. Real bad to the point where you've got pretty much everybody in Philadelphia panicking that you're no longer really a playoff team. I understand Nick Sirianni's, I guess the word I'm looking for is dedication to Brian Johnson. And listen, Sean Desai is dealing with an impossible situation on defense, so I'm going to give him a small pass because he did make some adjustments in the second half of that Dallas game, and he slowed the Dallas offense down. But again, you turn the football over 3 times on offense. Now, that's not Brian Johnson's fault. But I'm thinking Nick Sirianni, even if you don't come out to the media and say that you're going to be taking over play calling, I'm thinking maybe you shake something up somewhere. You let somebody in the booth who sees that they're running Madden 99 out there, maybe make some play calls. Or, like I said in last week's episode, you do the hurry up offense. Jalen Hurts seems to really thrive when you're not making him sit and wait for a play call. That's the other thing. Why do the Eagles always take the play clock down to 1 second? What is the purpose behind that? Especially when you have a quarterback who has shown when you put him in a hurry up offense, he's really, really good at executing it. I'm not saying you need to run a Chip Kelly offense. I'm not saying you need to be on the ball every 14 seconds, but there's got to be a better game plan in place, especially coming out of these 2 losses. If the Eagles don't come out and punch the Seattle Seahawks in the face and really make a statement, you're going to have a lot of people looking sideways at them. I mean, Vegas already doesn't trust them. Even when they were 10-1, the ESPN analyst had them power ranked down at 7. It's because you don't look good. You haven't looked good for a month. You've come away with some victories, but you haven't looked good. Let's see. Tim Hawkins is referring to Sean Desai and his defense, saying playing 10 yards off a ball on a 3rd and 2 is absolute madness. I agree. I scream at the TV all the time. Why aren't you up against him? Especially against a guy like CeeDee Lamb, right? Who if you can rattle him at the line of scrimmage, he gets rattled. He's capable of being rattled. So I agree. I'm right there with you. Any more questions from you guys? I think I've ranted enough. 26 minutes worth of me ranting about how the Eagles look bad. But let me go into my calming conversation here. Philadelphia Eagles are still 10-3. They're still number 1 in the NFC East. And do I think that they're in a slump right now? Absolutely. Teams go through them. The Dallas Cowboys, lost to the Cardinals earlier in the year. They lost two more games somewhere there. The San Francisco 49ers, I get it. That Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel were both injured, but they lost three in a row and they looked beatable, very, very beatable in those games. Um, good, good teams find ways to win. The Eagles are going to have to find ways to win. I hope the extra day off gives them a break. Gives them just the extra gusto they need in Seattle. Like I said, historically they don't play really well in Seattle. Actually, you know what? I don't feel like looking it up right now, but I'm pretty sure they've got like an all time terrible losing record when they play in Seattle or even against Seattle for that matter. Um, but they're going to need a win. They're going to need to go out there and handle business. And if you beat Seattle, see that scares me, Tim. Seattle's on a 4-game skid. You know what that means? It means they're ready to win a game. The Eagles are on a 2-game skid, and shit, the way they played on Sunday, they ain't ready to win a game. So Seattle scares me. They do. You come out of that game and you're 11-3, and I might have a much better feeling about where we're going in the next 4 weeks. But you go into Seattle and you get smacked in the mouth like you just got smacked twice. If you didn't think you were in trouble now, sure as shit will then. You gotta set the tone. Gotta set the tone. Tim Hawkins says Pete Carroll scares me. Listen, he's a smart coach. There's a reason he's been the head coach of Seattle for as long as he has, and why he elected not to pay Russ Wilson, let him go, and then they still made the playoffs without him. Smart coach, good coach. I may not agree with all of his antics, and for a 68-year-old guy, he's got tons and tons of energy. Good for him, but he's a good coach, and that team seems to want to play with him. Tim Hawkins did mention something to me earlier that I wanted to bring up. There was Derek Gunn, one of the reporters out of Philadelphia, says that he obviously talks to some of the players in the locker room, and one of them came out. It was an anonymous quote saying that the Eagles' offense is really frustrated with the play calling and the play design, saying, our receivers are taking way too long for routes to develop. Like, look at what Dallas is doing, running 2 over the top and 2 underneath. So Dak Prescott always has somewhere to go with the football. Meanwhile, the Eagles, I keep saying it, he's only throwing the ball to 3 guys because only 3 guys are on the field that can catch it. And apparently the Eagles players inside the locker room are complaining about the play design. That's not good. Nick Sirianni, you need to bite that one in the ass now. Get under it, get past it, figure it out. I don't know what you're going to implement in 5 days that's going to fix this offense. Like, I have no idea what you're going to do in 5 days that's going to fix the offense, but you better figure it out. Fucking figure it out. Don't know what else to say to you. Again, I don't know about Geno Smith. He was a game time decision on Sunday, so it's likely that he plays, but I cannot confirm nor deny if he is playing on Monday. It's a tough sell to fire a guy who's 10-3. I mean, and again, going into the last 2 weeks, the Eagles had the 4th best offense in football. And it was with those really bad routes. I mean, listen, players can complain all they want when they get their asses kicked, but the reality is you were 10-1 before these last 2 weeks with those basic ass routes. What changed the last 2 weeks? 2 good teams found a way to beat you. Bad. And you turn the football over. Not in the Niners game. The Niners just came into your house and beat the shit out of you. But in the Dallas game, you specifically lost because you took 21 of your own points on the board and put 17 on the board for the Cowboys. Do the math. All right. I think I've done enough ranting. Try and end this a little bit positive here. I don't have anything positive to say. Oh, that's the other thing. Howie, you and Nick Sirianni like basically begged Shaq Leonard to be a Philadelphia Eagle, and the man didn't play a single snap in the first quarter, and your defense was on the field a lot. What's the point in bringing a guy like that in if he's not going to play? You left Nick Morrow on the field to get torched. What's the point in that? I don't know. Ken Brandt saying you fire the OC because it might wake them up. Tim says that probably would wake them up. But alas, I digress. Still a big ass Eagles fan. I'll give you guys my predictions on Saturday when I do the show with Ryan. We're gonna try and stay on track over here at BSing and make sure that we keep getting our shows out there, keep getting our content out there, so you guys have stuff to listen to and watch and stuff. I appreciate Tim and Ken and Tim Monty as well for jumping in the comments here. I really appreciate it. It makes it a lot easier when I'm doing a solo show and I have comments. I appreciate it. Yeah. I'm in a few hours. I got more work. My main job. I got more work to do, and then I'll get some sleep. But yeah, again, thanks for coming in and jumping in the comments. Tim Hawkins says leadership better step the fuck up. I 1000% agree with that. I have nothing but absolute agreement there. It concerns me that the locker room is starting to talk outside of the locker room. Like that's what's super concerning to me. It's one thing for you guys to be in the locker room saying it to each other, but for you to leak it intentionally, there's got to be some discord in the locker room, and Nick Sirianni's going to have to put a hat on that real quick. It is what it is. Yes, Ken Brandt, the Flyers do play at 8:00 tonight. I will probably have that on and pass out on the couch watching that, if I'm going to be 1,000% honest with you. But yeah, again, that's going to do it for me here on my Eagles recap show on BSing Sports, part of the BSing Network, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. You guys have a great night.